Welcome to my channel Study. Today in this video we are going to learn English Beehive Chapter 1, The Fun They Had. So before we move further, there is a note given. The story we shall read is set in the future when books and school as we now know them will perhaps not exist. How will children study then? The diagram below may give you some ideas. So the writer of the story is imagining that in 22nd century, in the future, when the children don't have any books, when there will no schools, they will not go to any school. So what will happen? How they will study? So the story is all about on this topic only, that how they study and what will happen when they get to know that there was school and there were books. So now the main question comes that how will they study, how the children study then. So there is a diagram given by which we can understand properly. Maybe some ideas can be given to us by this diagram. So schools of the future. Robotic teacher. So first is robotic teacher, means there will be no human teacher, as nowadays there are human teachers who are teaching us, but that time there will be no human teacher, there will be robotic teacher and everything will be computerized. Virtual classrooms. Virtual classroom means in this that there were no person, no man, no human will be there to teach. You are going to taught by a mechanical teacher. You're going to sit in a chair and having a computer in front of you. As now we are learning through YouTube and other sites, other apps which are providing us online classes. So that's called virtual classroom. Now moving e-text. Now what is moving e-text? As in books we can see that the text are still, but that time in the computers or in the laptops the text will be moving. Learning through computers. These days we are learning to books, but that time the children will learn through computers. They will have a computer, they will learn through computer, they will write in computer, they will read from computer. Now in pair, discuss 3 things that you like best about your school and 3 things about your school that you would like to change. Write them down. Okay, so this is an activity which you have to do in pairs. You can do it with your classmates or with your friends. You have to discuss the 3 things that you like about your school and 3 things that you would like to change about your school. Now, have you ever read words on television screen or a computer screen? Can you imagine a time when all books will be on computers and there will be no books printed on paper? Would you like such books better? Now the writer is asking us to imagine that a time when there will be no books, and if there are book, the book will be on computer. There will be a book but not in your hand, on computers. There will no book printed on papers. Everything will be computerized. So he is asking that would we like such books better? I guess no, and I don't know what's your opinion, but from me it's no. Margie. First paragraph. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17 May 2157, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book." Now, Margie was a little girl. She used to do diary entry, and on the top she wrote the date, that is 17 May 2157, means 22nd century. Now she wrote that Tommy found a real book. So such a common thing for us, but the children who hadn't seen a school, who hadn't seen a book, for them it's a big thing that they found a real book. They saw a real book having a pages and having a text written on it, which are not moving actually, as they are moving in computers, as here we have read. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on a paper. So what happened? The book was of Margie's grandfather. It was a time when he was a little boy and he used to go to school and he used to have a book like we have. So he told them that there was a time when all stories were written on a paper. They were printed on a paper. Now, they turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly. It was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, Now, as we have saw a diagram where we saw a diagram of moving text. So Margie and Tommy was laughing and they were saying they were turning the pages, so they saw a yellow and crinkly pages. Crinkly means, here you can see, here is a written. Crinkly means with many folds or lines, means the book was very old, so there were folds and there were lines, this kind. So that thing only called crinkly. So they were just laughing that what a funny thing. The words are still, instead they should have to move, they are just still. As they were supposed to move on a screen, they're just still and they're just not moving. Now, and then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it the first time. Then they come back, then they turn to the back page, and they were surprised to see that there were the same words written on it as they saw earlier in the first page the first time. The second para, "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you're through with the book, you just throw it away. I guess our television screen must have had a million of books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." Now, Tommy was saying gee. He was just not like that book. He was saying book as a waste, because once we go through that book, once we read that book, the book is just waste. We have to just throw that book. We have to dump that book. So he was saying that the television screen have many millions of books there, millions of books put there. So he was saying that it is good, and he wouldn't throw it away, because if one lesson ends, then another lesson will come, and if one whole book will end, then another book will come. So he was saying that television is better. Indirectly he was saying that the book that time were not just good, and the television nowadays are good. Now same with mine, said Margie. Margie was also agreeing with him. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. Now, Margie was just 11 years old, a little girl, and Tommy was 13 years old. Margie was asking Tommy that where he had found that book. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house," he pointed without looking, because he was busy reading. "In the attic." "What's it about?" "School." Now, what happened? Margie was asking Tommy that where did he find that book. So Tommy was so busy in reading, so he just pointed his finger and he was saying, "In my house." What's about it means, now as I told that Tommy was so busy in reading, so he just pointed his finger toward his house and he was saying that in my house I found it. In the attic. Now what is attic actually? Now, a space just below the roof used as a storeroom, means space which is under the room below the roof and which is used as a storeroom, called as attic. So in the attic he found that book. Now Margie was asking him that what's about it, now what the book is about. So he was saying school. The book is about school. Margie was scornful. Now third para. School? What's there to write about school? I hate school. Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. Now what happened when she asked that what's the book about it, so Tommy replied as school. So she was just very angry and she was just very shocked at school. Now what is about to write school? What is there to write about school? She said that she hates the school. Margie always hates school because her mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test and she was doing worse in her test. They were giving test after test in geography and she was actually doing worse in her test. And what happened? Her mother called, shaking her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. Now who is county inspector? We will see in the fourth para. Now he was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with tiles and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right. And after an hour or so, there it was again, large and plump and ugly, with this big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. Now what happened? County inspector, it's not like actual inspector, it's an inspector who used to correct the mechanical teacher if any fault is there, so he will come and correct that teacher. So he was a round little man with a red face and a whole box, and he was having a whole box of tools and wires in it, and he smiled at Margie when he entered. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple to eat. Now Margie was hoping to God that please God, maybe she was just hoping that please God, the county inspector wouldn't know that how to correct that mechanical teacher. But Margie is bad. The county inspector knew how to correct the mechanical teacher, and after an hour or so he corrected it. The mechanical teacher was having a big screen on which all the lessons were shown, and he was large, black and ugly. Now the part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put the homework. Now in mechanical teacher there was a slot in which she have to put the homework and all the test papers she have to put in that slot. There is a slot in the mechanical teacher only. Now what is slot? Slot is a given space, time or position. Now she always had to write them out in punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. So she used to write the homework and her test papers in the punch codes which her mother and all made her write when she was just a 6-year-old little girl. Now what happened when Margie entered the test papers in the slot, here she here she put the paper and here she get her marks. So the mechanical teacher count the marks in no time. Now the inspector had smiled. Now fifth para, the inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jonas. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory. And he patted Margie's head again. Now what happens? After a county inspector was turned, he corrected the mechanical teacher. He smiled at Margie and patted her head. Now he said to her mother, who is Mrs. Jonas, that it wasn't Margie's fault. The geography sector was geared a little quick, so he just corrected it to an average 10-year level. Now he also said that the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory, means she was just doing very well. And he patted Margie's head again. He patted Margie's head when he finished, when he corrected the mechanical teacher, and after saying all those lines and after talking to Mrs. Jonas, he patted her head again, his head again. Now, Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. Now what happened? She was just very disappointed. She was sad. She was hoping that the county inspector can take the mechanical teacher away for nearly a month or a week, because they have once taken the mechanical teacher of Tommy for nearly a month, because that history sector like geosector and history, so there was a history sector, so that was completely blanked out. There was nothing in that sector. Now she said to Tommy, why would anyone write about school? Now after everything happened to her, she was just doing worse and worse. The county inspector hadn't taken away the mechanical teacher, and she just had to submit all the tests and homework. So after all these things, she was just angry, and she was saying to Tommy that why would anyone write about school are worse, school are wasteless, so why would anyone going to write about it? So that's it for today. We will continue with the chapter in my next part. So be updated and keep watching my channel. If you like this, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.